lowish tier game. Matilda, pretty much same comps, only comps are less important in these lower tier games. Encounter mode, Himmelsdorf, I always go towards this side. You can, especially on Matilda, you can actually bully a lot of this because all those the equal tier tanks can pen you. Like a lot of these lower tier tanks are gonna struggle. Um, but I think the Matilda is okay. I'm not really much of a fan. It's a little bit too slow, and it doesn't quite have enough armor to make it relevant, unfortunately, in most cases. So you can set up over here, you can set up over there, you can go all the way to the outside. I don't normally like playing the 1-2 on an encounter. I find it's usually much more profitable to play this sort of 3-4 area there. Usually more than enough people go to the hill, so you don't really have to worry about going hill. And I have my general theory is that whoever wins hill loses the game, as long as you're reasonably aggressive enough on the other side. And it's always important to watch what your team does, as expected. Most of your team went this way. You got a PZ4H over here, so he'll be able to spot that line to let you know what's going over there. You have a KV1, so you got a bunch of heavies over there. So it's probably best you could actually start playing in this area over here, and then because they've seen a PZ4 over there, and so if these guys start pushing up, you can actually push across there and go into flank. You can also get shots up at the hill from over in this area as well. You can also go over here, but it depends. You see how you're the only person on this entire, like every single player on your team is in these 4 lanes right here. And so you actually have a somewhat important role to play, and it would be nice also if you don't die. You can shoot these guys on the side from back here. It's usually best to actually drive to right here if you want to shoot those guys, because you're going to get lit no matter what. And at least over here you have some cover from not only direct fire but from their artillery. It's going to be difficult for you to get reasonably good shots from there. You're better off going over here because, like, if you look at the way that this is as far as I can zoom out, like you're basically in the open there.
It's a trap.
So they sent somebody through the cap, so that lets you know there's at least one tank there. That's not entirely unexpected. Looks like they have a bunch of tanks there. I guess that's good. So you should actually concern yourself with this, because your KV1 over here is going to die because they've got all those guys up there, so he's probably not going to be able to make it out of there. He's still got a lot of health. Maybe they're just awful at shooting. They literally have a bunch of guys up there shooting at them. But we'll see.
It's a trap.
So pushing across there is a little bit dangerous. So what you want to do in this type of situation, see how both of these guys can shoot you? What you want to do is you want to make it so that only one of them can shoot you at any given time. So like you could have kept driving a little bit more. You could have kept driving a little bit more this way, or you could have just not driven quite as far, right? So you only have shots on one of them, because you're only shooting one of them at a time. You don't need the ability to shoot both of them at a time. So just get into a position where you can shoot one. And then they lost the hill, but you have guys over here, so you probably actually should have gone on cap, right? Or at least until these guys got on cap. So once you get 3 on cap, then what you want to do is screen, and the best way to screen is actually to play like this corner right here, so that you can spot different areas, or you can even go down here. Like especially in a tank that's really slow, you need to be set up where they have to cross your path in order to get to the cap. That's what you want. And despite what that dude said, you're doing the right thing by screening. You put 3 on cap and you screen. That's how you win. And you can play this lane right here, but you have to be careful because you can get backdoor really easily. And it will happen. It's not a question of maybe. There will be people behind you. And you're going out here a little bit too square. Like, see how you're sticking your drive wheel out? It's actually really easy to damage you through your drive wheel there. So most of their tanks have congregated on this line, which is fantastic. So what you need to actually do, you're actually dealing good damage here, but what you actually need to do, your only purpose right there is to slow them down, right? They have 10 seconds to get to cap, so you want to just slow them down. That's fine. He's passed. There's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. And so you actually want to angle your armor a little bit the other way and push forward, just a little bit more, so you can cover your Glacius so that he has to try to shoot you in the side. Like, you don't want him to be able to try to shoot you in the front. It looks like he's trying to shoot you in the turret or something. So I don't know. And so that DW2 is probably going to appear over here, so you should be able to get shots on the 3001H. Don't worry about the PZ1C. The PZ1C, and this is what I usually say, you have to know who you can bully. The PZ1C cannot pen you from any angle in any direction on any side. So he's the least of your concerns. And like this KV1 and this Churchill, they should know that as well. That PZ1C is the only thing that PZ1C can do is spot. And so ideally what you want to do is be able to take out the Hydro here first. It's actually, you probably want to go around to this side of here, but...
It's a trap!
Oh no! And then right now you're a little bit square with him. You actually want to turn just a little bit, just so you can get a slightly better angle. Lol, the panning. The way that his arty shell hit suggests that he's still over here someplace. And you can go hunt him down, but it's actually probably easier for you to just cap. And then if you do cap, you go to that little building, the one that's indestructible there, and you force him to come to you. Driving around. And so your team didn't really play this side too aggressively, which is fine, because you didn't really send that many tanks over here, right? You sent tanks to the 8 line, and then they slowly trickled across. If those guys actually had started down here and pushed forward, they actually would have been much better off, because what ended up happening, right, is like your KV1 and that Churchill, they basically drove along this D line and this E line, and everybody on the hill was able to shoot them. So that's one of the things that you have to sort of think about, like when you watch how this game developed. You sent a lot of guys to the hill, but you still lost the hill. And the thing is that it's really important what you do every place else. And you do take corners with a little bit too much of your side showing, which doesn't matter against artillery, but
It's a trap!
lol, clever artillery. Nice, good job. But otherwise, it was a good job. And then right when you were, sorry, I think it was, no, it wasn't. Let's see, where was it? No, it was right here. When you were right here, right, and they were coming across this line over here, you popped out and chopped that tank destroyer. If you see them that they're not pushing forward, you don't need to poke out on every shot. Every time you're reloaded, you're not trying to do damage there. Well, all you're trying to do is scare them, right, and prevent them from going, oh, well, we should just push in here, right? That their PZ4 actually had the right idea, or was it a PZ4? It was a 3001H, I think, had the right idea where he just drove across. He's just like, I gotta go. Their T14 had the exact wrong idea, right? Because he basically drove across and then he stopped and he was just shooting you, and you got free shots into his side. But a lot of times that happens with not so experienced players in these lower tiers. But you did a good job. This was a good area to set up in over here. Like I was saying, the other places where you can set up is back here and or down here, so that you can, all you're basically trying to do is make it so that they have to drive past you, to get to the cap. And ideally you can spot them coming, which gives your team an idea of what's going on. And so if we look at the stats, yeah. So this is the KV1 that was on the lower level. So just between you and the KV1, you outdamaged well, pretty much just between yourself, you outdamaged everybody that was every single tank that went to the hill. Um, and this just sort of I always say like there's certain maps where going towards the team goal is far more important than um, going away from it, because if you go away from it, you can get yourself screwed. And so they had a huge advantage because they won the hill, but the problem was is that they had to drive across an open area, right? They had to try to race back to get to the cap to reset, and that gives you free damage, just free shots. And that's a huge thing that I think that people don't really understand. That happens a lot, I think, on Himmelsdorf. That happens a lot on Steps encounter, and that happens to slightly lesser extent, but significantly in Mines encounter. And so there's certain maps that it's really important to play close enough to the team goal that you can do something that you can play efficiently over there. Anyhow, good game, Sluffo. All right, so I am now out of review. So we'll go ahead and do another round of reviews or links. So go ahead and link it if you got it. 9.5 apparently is the only thing I'm able to watch right now. So let's make it less restricted to 9.5, please. Okay, that's enough links for the moment. Let me sort through these and we'll get to where we're going. And please don't link more than once or more than one. It just makes it difficult for me to sort through it all. Just pick, if you have one, pick one and link one once. And then that way I can go through them and everybody gets a chance. Nice shot. And then you can peek through here, but remember these bushes are not very good for camo, so just peek out and then go back, like immediately. It looks like they sent a large number of their tanks, or a large enough number of their tanks over here. Although you got your heavies finally coming back this way, so we'll see what happens when they get there. But right now, like, there is a window right there where if they were more aggressive, they could have pushed around on those guys. That would have made things difficult. And so, like at times like this, and in a light tank, it's a little bit different. But at times like this, where you're literally just sitting here doing nothing, you have to think about maybe relocating, going someplace where you can actually be a little bit more useful. Yeah, like I said, it's a little bit different if you're in a light tank because it's not like you can push around this outside edge for them per se. But you have to be ready. Like you have to see this guy, this IS-3 poking over here, things like that. Or people can just drive up to you and let you shoot them in the face. I suppose that works too. This is still going to be the most difficult area for you to crack, so you have to start thinking about that. So I'm guessing you don't have success, which is you ideally want to have it in this high of a tier light tank. So if you have one full skill, you can always respec into 6 cents. And then these guys are going to start pushing on your guys eventually, so you have to see that and actually be ready for it. And so the probability, so these bushes suck, so the probability is that guy is actually lighting you, so you have to be careful because you can get hit by artillery. And see how these guys are pushing in behind you? Turn around, man! Turn around. He's literally, you could shoot him right now if you turned around. Look, he did this entire loop around behind you. You just let him go. You let him drive by and shoot your team. See that dead guy right there? That DK3601? That would see these other guys that are pushing around now? Shoot the A44. Shoot the drive wheel. There you go. You still want to shoot towards the drive wheel if you can, because I don't know what he was doing. I didn't really see him get tracked. You want to get out of there now. You don't want to be there. You want to leave, and basically you leave just off this back, because right now either of those sides can just push into you. Like, you don't want to take on this KV5. You don't want to take on that IS-6 that's behind him. Oh man. Lol. You do want to repair that ammo rack. You have a repair kit. Use it. Yeah, so there was no reason at all for you to stay there. You were not committed, and if you're, even though you weren't really paying attention to what was going on there. You should have, because you should know that that was their strong side. But even though you missed the A44 going through, you had plenty of time to get out. You could have left there whenever you wanted. You could have left there before the KV5 pushed around. You could have left there even once the A44 died. Even before the A44 died, you could have left there. And you could have literally driven out this way if you wanted and gone to the left. You could have driven off the backside of this over here. You could have driven off this side over here. You were not committed to the location that you were at. So what do I think were the flaws here? So the position that you went to is not necessarily a bad position, because you can get decent shots through this area. But there was, for the first 3 minutes of the game, or two minutes of the game, you were kind of just sitting up there waiting for some things to happen. You got some shots on there, 2801, who pushed too far forward, which is great. I mean, that's fantastic. That's that's exactly what you want to do. And then you were kind of waiting there, and then it just so happened that they pushed two guys up over here. I think it was a Jackson and that I don't know what the other tank was, but so that allowed you to get some shots. But especially, you have to learn how those bushes work. They're not very good for camo, so it's likely that that 5100 were shooting you. And so it's kind of surprising that the M12 wasn't able to hit you. Maybe he felt like he had better things to shoot at. But certainly pay attention to what's going on, especially in those long stretches when you're not really doing anything. You really want to look and see, okay, where do I think their team's at? Because you saw that there was a mass of them over here, and you saw that you really didn't have that much tanks. And then they kept pushing in a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. They were telling you, hey, we're going to push soon. Hey, we're going to push soon. Hey, we're going to push soon. And you just have to listen to that. And if you do, then you can help your guys out. And then what if it's a lost cause? Then you have the speed to get out. Just get out. No, I mean, you did fine. I mean, it's not like you YOLO'd in and just got yourself killed. It's just, so much of this game, particularly when, early on when you start playing this game, it takes a while when you're not doing anything, to look at the mini-map. But if you train yourself that you're like, hey, there's not really anything going on right now, look at the mini-map. Just look at it and go, okay, we've got a lot of tanks here, they have a lot of tanks there. How do I react to that? And especially when you're in a light tank like the Bulldog, you can't try to take on heavies frontally like that. You just can't. That will never ever work out well for you. When you play a light tank, you gotta think of it. You're trying to be sneaky. You're trying to be an annoyance, a pest. You're not a bully. You're not a bruiser like that. Unfortunately, your team did not really help you out very much there, but you did pretty well. I mean, you did well shooting wise, which is always, the first thing that you want to be able to be able to do, make your shots count, deal damage. But yeah, nice try, GG. The STB1 and the Leo1 are more or less, they play more or less an equivalent role with Clan Wars. You use them basically as DPM-ish snipers. The Leo1's a little bit more accurate, the STB's got a little bit more DPM, but usually they're not employed all that often. It's not a whole lot of maps that they'll be used on. Alright, so T37 game is next on Westfield. Looks like it's a good game. I hope it's not too campy. Man, once again, good matchmaking. This is the lowest. Whoa, that's weird. Is it just me, or did we jump into like the middle of the match? Oh, that's as far back as it goes. Alright, well apparently, a third of each team is dead already. So apparently you have a lot of tanks on this side of the map. Which is interesting. So you're a little bit too far back, so this guy's not going to drive past them. You're never going to get shots where you're at. You will not get shots. Like, if they're over here, you might get shots, but you're not going to get shots. And apparently you're going to have to go back to the base. Okay, so 5 minutes have elapsed. Apparently you lost town. So that you have more than enough tanks over here, so you go back. You can actually go back to let's see, where is it? Right here, where I'm looking right there. And you can spot this, and there's no place that they can hide from back there. Now, shoot the guy on cap. He's one shot. Okay, and then now what you actually want to do is you want to back up. You don't want to be spotted out there. So you look at like where this guy is. So whenever you're starting to get encapsulated like this, you always want to break out to one area. These guys are not currently a threat to cap, so you want to clear out that 46 if you can, and then you can worry about this. That's like where you're at right now. See, you're the one spotting that Churchill, and you're the one trying to shoot him, and that's going to end up being bad for you, because eventually that Hellcat's going to come up on the side, and that's going to make things difficult. Oh, looks like they were able to take out that 46, which is great. Because what you want them to do, you want them to think that they can cap. Like, you want that Hellcat to go, oh, okay, I'm just going to put cap pressure on. Because this cap is actually really easy to reset. And then you just want to make sure that you don't get spotted and basically cut under from over here, because that's what will really hurt you. And then right now, you're being a little bit too passive. I think you need to go over to like this bush over here, which will give you a better angle to see that side. Especially since your guys are like pushing into their base like one at a time now. And less talking, more playing. So what you really want to avoid is a situation where this guy's going to die and these guys will come along on your backside, because you don't want to have guys in front of you and behind you. You always want to have a clear flank that you can basically use. And so you're kind of in a bind right now. So what you actually need to do is you still need to move. So if you move over to like this bush over here, you can spot them coming from the other side. You have to be careful pushing forward here, because you know the Hellcat's there, and the Hellcat's going to be difficult for you to kill without him dealing some damage to you. Presumably he's still here someplace. I mean, who knows?
It's a trap!
Yes, there he is. Apparently he's crashed. So I actually wouldn't worry about him. Just start driving away. Oh my god, just drive away. You can still shoot him, but drive away while you're shooting him. And then so this Churchill has awful view range, right? Because he couldn't shoot you even when you were firing from over there. So you want to drive away from him. Let me get closer. And so you have a window here. Yeah, the JP's here. You got lucky that JP didn't deal damage to you. Okay, and then you have to worry about artillery here. Not to mention the JP is going to be coming over this ridge right here.
It's a trap!
It's like you forgot where the JP was, because you're like, what? There's somebody over there? Like you drove right in front of him. And that's fine. What you're doing right now is actually fantastic, because you see him driving forward, get around to his side.
It's a trap!
The PZ-4C is going to take a little bit to get to you. You just have to be careful because of the artillery. That's fine, and it's usually best to just auto aim here and then watch where you're driving. Just let the auto aim do the aiming, and you do the driving. Good job. That was not the artillery, that was the ambulance. 1C. And then you don't want to drive at him. You actually just want to drive away from him. See how he backed up a little bit?
It's a trap!
Oh my god. Crazy! Lol. And then what you want to do, that was the artillery. What you want to do is you want to be somewhat high up on this ridge. You probably just want to skirt over here. The S-51 is a really slow artillery, so he's probably still in this quadrant right here. So then all you have to do is just skirt along here, and you'll be able to spot him. But it's really difficult. So, you know, I'm not exactly sure what happened in the first 4 minutes of the match, because for whatever reason, this game didn't actually start until 4 minutes in. But it was obvious that you lost this side, and so from that position where you started out in, right, you had your team already on the aqueduct, and you were sitting there like staring to this area over here, like they were going to somehow magically appear behind your tanks for you to get shots. you could have gone back and started lighting those guys in the cap. Maybe try to save your artillery because your artillery was sort of limping to get out of the base. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know exactly what happened before that. And so you want to be a little bit more on this ridge because right now you're not enough on the ridge to actually spot into that bowl because you want to spot him wherever he's at.
It's a trap!
Not as good job. But yeah, so anyways, I think you could have been a little bit more efficient with protecting the cap. And then once you know that Churchill didn't push down, right, and the Hellcat didn't push you, so there was sort of this confluence of event that allowed you to stay in this pocket over here, right? If either of those guys had pushed forward, then you would have been able to get shot by their guys that were over here, like that the 1946 that eventually pushed down. And that's what's dangerous about playing this particular area over here. So what I was saying is that what you should do is you should push forward to, I think it's this bush or this bush. I can't tell from our current position. But basically that allows you to spot the cap. You'll stay camoed up. If you think that Hellcat's going to push up at you, you actually need to drop back, right? And so that was what I was saying is that your pocket was collapsing there. And if you got lit, all three of those guys would have had shots at you, as well as anybody that was still in this low town area over here. Your team sort of pushed into this camp area, into this area over here, and they already had an encapsulate on that, so they were able to counter that fairly easily. And you also, yeah, sorry, the other thing is that uh, it was risky pushing back here for that Hellcat. You're lucky that he crashed or whatever. And then once you figure out that he's crashed, that he's not there, you don't need to sit there motionless shooting him. Just start driving away to some cover, right? You could have driven over to these houses and then shot him, right? And then the Churchill wouldn't have had shots on you. The JP wouldn't have had shots on you. You can kill him, and then you can go on and do whatever you got. So like you took some needless risks here, and then you knew that JP shot at you because he zero damaged both in yellowed both of your tracks, right? So you knew that he was over there someplace. He did get lit, but maybe you know in the heat of battle you sometimes miss those things. But you know that he was there at one point. That somebody was there shooting at you at one point. And you still basically just drove across in front of him again, and luckily he missed. So these be the stats. So pretty good. I mean, like I said, it's difficult for me to interpret it exactly what your positioning was because of I don't know what happened on that north side of the town. Um, so yeah, from that point on forward. Oh yeah, see, my game crashed. Anyhow, um, yeah, so that's what I'm thinking is just you kind of got a little bit lucky there at the end. And so you could what you want to do in those types of situations is kind of like what you did to that Churchill somewhat inadvertently. Basically spot from the fringes and get shots on him where he can't fire back at you. You know, those are the types of situations that you're looking at. Because you basically at that point had like a 1v3 in terms of the tanks that were lit on the map, the 1946, the Churchill, and well, for a small period of time, that Hellcat. So you want to try to create those situations where you're shooting at them, but they can't spot you. Good game. A lot of people in pubs like taking this field area, which I guess is okay. I just, it it's not unimportant. It's not unimportant like Himmelsdorf or Steps, but I think the game is more often won or lost actually in through the center area. But whatever. So intel is always important. So you look at what they have, right? So they sent both of their 7 heavies out here, or sorry, 2 of their 7 heavies out there. So by subtraction, you know that they're not going to be over on your side. So you want to be a little bit aggressive. You don't have a whole lot of support. You've got a T29 coming, but you got a JP with you. JP's a good amount of DPM. Their JP4 is down here. So they've got a bunch of guys over here. So about half of their team has been spotted at or lit, or at one point. So it looks like their JP's on this inside here. Your 3001D is going to run into that guy. So you actually want to look down this side, see what's here.
It's a trap!
Lol, he's got the derp. And you want to be careful. So you see your JP's on the other side, so you do want to put some pressure over here, but you have to be careful. Your JP is now backing off with the T29 push forward. This is a very pubby push. They do it one at a time. And you want to put some pressure on the backside of this T29. Although now, see how you're the only guy out here now? But as long as he's not looking at you, that's fantastic. So all you're trying to do right here is get a turret break, get him to turn around. And you have to be careful on the corner that you're on because you can get hit by artillery. So you want to look to move across. Cool. And they're doing the puppy push, the one at a time. And so you know where their artillery is. And so right here you're relatively safe, but if you move forward, there's an alley right there. And then see how they've won through the back? That's fine, right? The team goal is over here. So like if this was standard Ensk, you would start heading back, but in counter, you don't need to. It's fine.
It's a trap!
That 12T is going to die. Like, you have to recognize situations where you've got a huge overmatch and you don't need to drive out there. Just turn around and get on to the next one, because otherwise you're always wasting time. This IS, see how he's driving up that way? You'll get a shot through there if you go that way instead of the way that you're going. Especially when you're in a slow tank, you have to learn to cut off people rather than chase them, because he's in a faster tank. It's going to take you forever to chase him.
It's a trap!
And then your side is a little exposed right now as well, so that's always an issue. And then ideally you want to shoot the drive wheel there. And you're still in an arty lane, so like you can get up against these trucks right here, and there's trains right there. Actually be a little bit safer. And the RD shell landed right in front of you. You can shoot under the tank right there if you want. I think he's in the right position. Kind of hard to say.
It's a trap!
That's fine. And then again, just turn around and start going the other way. And then you just need to screen over here. Like, they're going to try to push around on these guys. And then see how they're both on the same corner? That's perfect. That's exactly what you want. And you want to make yourself a little bit more of a target here, because you're gonna start. Those guys are gonna start bleeding in that middle. Yeah, okay. Now you want to make yourself less of a target. Cool. The side profile is real. Yeah, I don't know where that T29 is trying to run off to. So you did a good job overall. A couple of things is that I wanted to try to save these guys over here. You did a puppy push and then they did a puppy push, but sometimes that can't be helped, especially with slower tanks. And then the other thing is that you kind of needed to shelter yourself a little bit better from artillery. Because there were a lot of times where you were literally just sitting dead still for 10 seconds, 15 seconds at a time in an arty lane where you could be shot, and you just have to be careful about that. But otherwise, really good shooting. I mean, I like that part of it. Hey, Anfield. Yeah, and that's one of, as I was sort of noting, in those slower tanks, you kind of have to plan ahead about what's going on. Like, you would have played that entirely different if that was standard mode as opposed to encounter. And in terms of what you react, like when you lose a field, what do you do? How soon do you go back and where do you go? Those types of decisions become pretty important. But you did a good job, and nice work. GG. Yes, there was an amazing lack of losses being posted. So we're going with people's wins. And I like choosing at least somewhat close wins to make it actually useful. No, I mean, I think there's things to be learned even in victories as long as you try to learn, particularly the close ones. And this is something that we talk about in the stream a little bit here and there. But it's the decisions that you make in the game are really important, and it's not just the decisions that turn close losses into victories, but there's a lot of games where you can watch what's happening. You can go, okay, we barely won this game, but we should have won this game by a mile, right? And those types of decisions are just as important to make, as the ones that make the difference between a loss and a victory. And so I think you can learn from those types of things. Those games where you win by 4 tanks where you should have won by 10 tanks, and identify, okay, well, why was this game so close when it should have been, when it should not have been. And it's a similar thing. Like if you look back at we were talking in the stream, I think it was a couple of nights ago, basically about how to play steps and counter, and my advocacy was always to go towards the team goal, steps and counter. And we have that example where we won that game even though we were down like 10,000 health or whatever, because we had guys that went towards the cap and they did it. And our team did a combined like 3,000 damage in like a tier 8 game, but we won, right? And so where the decisions that you make and where you go, it's not always just the difference between a loss and a win. It's just they're decisions, and they have to be even the ones that aren't close, if you want to put that in quotes, and those are still important to make correctly. Yeah, I mean, we had that review, I think it was like last week though, on Moravanka, of that guy who, I think it was in a Leo, and he pushed east, and he won the game, but he got lucky that he didn't get killed. And you have to, when you watch your replays, you have to be able to watch them with a critical eye and be able to say, not just, oh, but I won. I mean, I don't really care if you won. I mean, that's not the point. And this is an argument that I have with Marsh all the time. When I think that Marsh does something wrong, I go, hey Marsh, you shouldn't do that. You should do this instead because of X, Y, Z. And Marsh goes, oh, but it worked? I'm just like, yeah, it worked this time. But, you know, if you did it, you know, make an argument and to actually say why it doesn't work. Don't just go, oh, it worked. You know, just because you won a game doesn't mean you deserve to win the game. Just like if you lose a game doesn't necessarily mean you deserve to lose that game. And you have to have a certain amount of confidence, I guess, would be the best word that I can think of, that you can critique your own game and not have that be earth-shattering. You know, you can't have that much of an ego where you're just like, oh yeah, you know, hey, I got 10 kills and we lost, but if I watch the game, you got 10 kills and a loss by basically camping. Sorry, that's just, it's not impressive, and it'll be very obvious. Okay, anyways, I should be critiquing this one. So this is actually a good place to go in the Centurion, especially see how your team is all far back. You don't want to overcommit to this area if you can. You do need to be careful. They do have a FE304, so you can actually wait until he shoots you, and then you can start worrying about artillery. Because the 304 has got such a short range that you really don't need to worry about him until you actually get hit by him. That's generally how I play it. I mean, unless you're like in a paper tank, you know, like a thin tank. Like a light tank, I guess one side. And so you actually have to play this side a little bit conservative because you sent a large portion of your team the other way, and the rest of your team is actually camping behind you. And see how from where they're at, they're not really getting that great of shots. Well, apparently the JP4 is. And then so you have to be careful. You can push forward here, but you have to be a little bit careful because you still don't know what else is back there because you've had no eyes up there. So you have to be careful not to overcommit. Lol, they've got a Ferdinand back there, just chilling like a villain. Aim a little bit more to the right, and the side armor is really weak, and you can shoot the drive wheel there as well. Okay, so now the FE304 is in your range. So then now is when you have to be able to relocate, because now you don't want to just sit here, because the FE304 will be a problem for you. So you want to get unlit. And the FE304 is lit, but your artillery is also a 304, so it's not like he's gonna be in range to counter him. So either you get to shoot the FE304 directly, or he's just gonna keep pecking. Although apparently he's not even shooting at you anymore. He's shooting at some guy down there. I would try to get that FE304 if you can. That's fine, you can take out the Ferdinand. If he's giving it to you. And then you don't want to get into a position where you get shot in the base, because it looks like most of their team is still camping. And so you... Oh, looks like T29 is going to push. That's good for you, because... So this is the same thing from the other side. Like, if you're that T29, why are you pushing forward there? You know that your team's got like a ton of tanks over there. He should be running away. Similarly, their FE304 should have been running away a while ago. And then this is nice, once the FE304 is down, you can play anywhere on this ridge line here. They're pushing through to your base though, and see how you don't have anybody back here? You should actually probably turn around. I'm going to amend that. You should probably turn around and come back through that cap area. Wow, they had a lot of campers. That SU is turning to face you. Yeah, I would still be concerned about my cap at this point. I mean, that's the only way that you can lose this, really. Well, I mean, I guess there's other ways you can lose it, but usually the way that these games work, where they're like a super hard camp, you push it. The way that you lose it is your team pushes in extremely foolishly, or you get capped out because you leave this big gap up through this middle. This one guy is able to do that. And you want to be careful pushing forward here because that 5100 is there. He's probably clipping right now, which is why he backed off. And he's low health anyway, so yeah, you can bully him. But the difference is that if he had more health and he was clipped, the further forward that you push forward, the further forward that you commit, the more that he's going to be able to just bum rush you and clip you out, which is the sort of danger that you run into. And then again, there's somebody on your cap. You need to be aware of that. You got one guy going back. Luckily, they only sent one guy up there. If they sent multiple guys up there, they probably could have capped you guys out. And your position where you're at right now is fine. You're not actually in a position to go back to the cap anymore, but you should have done it earlier, is what I know. And you should recognize when you've got these gaps in your defense like that. Like, you can't always tell where the gaps in their defense are because you can't see where all their tanks are, but you always know where your tanks are, and so that's the easiest thing to take into account. And who knows what this guy's doing. But this guy's gonna die, so you don't have to worry about that. You can probably bully this guy. He just shot. Lol. And then usually at this close of a range, it's better in most cases to just auto aim. No. Oh man. You can, okay, so right there, turn your treads and your turret, and your gun will turn faster. I know you know that. I'm just pointing that out. Lol, your E25 crashed. Charge! No, just go forward. There's no need to be sneaky. There's one tank. He's surrounded by like 4 tanks. You're good. That was awesome. Nice work, JP4. So anyways, you did a good job, right? So you stopped right here at the start, which was appropriate given the fact that you didn't have any fast tanks move forward to scout, and that your team was kind of congregated back here. What you don't want to do is overcommit. Like, you don't want to drive over to this rock or to this area over here without having some sort of intel, because if they counter push down this side, those guys could have been able to swarm you. So playing back here was the appropriate move, and especially when there's only an FV304. Take shots of opportunity, do whatever you can get until the 304 hits you. Until once you know the 304 is in your area, then you kind of need to amend your game plan a little bit, because he could have focused a little bit more on you right there, because you were, when you move forward and you were left by the T29 essentially. It took you a while to get around to a point, like it basically took you guys to kill all of their tanks, right? You had to kill the Ferdinand, you had to kill the T29 in order to get shots on the FV304, and in that time, if the FV304 was good, he could have killed you, or I would have killed you. Let's put it that way. You would have been. I would have made sure that you were dead. So that's something to think about. And so whenever I always be aggressive, when I'm playing against an FV304 already until I get shot by him, and then I try to figure out how I'm going to get to the FV304. Because whenever you get shot by him, that by default means that he's someplace where you can probably shoot him too, depending on what map you're running. So that's something to keep in mind. After that, like once you started pushing down here, right, you had a lot of your tanks over here, and you saw that you had this huge gap up the middle. Go back and make sure that you don't lose, because they were very, very obviously camping. I mean, who keeps a 5100 back here? I don't know. But they were very obviously camping at that point, and so there's no necessarily huge need for you guys to push through here, because it's not like you had to you were in some race. So you could have gone back and cleared that out. But luckily, you had a couple of guys that did go back, and they only pushed one guy through to your gap. But that's one way, and that's one of the things that you have to when you watch these types of replays. Even when you win, you have to identify. Okay, well, we could have lost here if they because you had this huge gap, and that 3601, not exactly the most spry of tanks, was able to basically drive all the way into your gap undetected. So, you know, if one slow tank can do that, 3 slow tanks can do that, and then you would be capped out while you guys were all down here, like shooting at their team. And even if they are fish in the barrel, I mean, you'll lose the game. And so you don't want to get damage at the cost of losing the game. So that's something to keep in mind. But otherwise, I thought you played pretty well. Again, shot efficiency is really important. Being able to do damage with the shots that you take good shots. And I think you did a good job of that. Yeah, your team, even though your team had reasonable position, although the guys behind you really didn't have that good of a position, but that JP4 was hitting shots behind you, but you weren't really getting a whole lot of firepower. But that happens, like when you move forward to a midpoint like that, and you look back, and all of your guys are really far back, that means a couple of things. That means probably that they're pretty bad, but that also means that they're not going to deal that much damage, just because of that. That's how bad players work in this game. If they feel like if they move forward they get killed, but they don't really feel like they're being ineffective if they're further back as long as they live. So go figure. But yeah, 24 pens on 31 shots, that's pretty good. So anyways, GG.